Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with Richard Eskow from the Zero Hour Podcast. Hi, Richard.
Hi. We're broadcast too, Jimmy.
Oh, and by the way, yes, he's also on the television. He's
Not
on,
to be a snob.
You're on Free Speech TV, right? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to downgrade you.
That's
Okay.
all right. I've been downgraded by.
Okay, I'm sorry. But we're talking about the tax plan. And, last month, so they're doing this big tax. One of the big lies that started with the Reagan administration was that tax cuts will turn into tax cuts for corporations turns into higher pay and more jobs because they take that tax cut that you give them. So now the corporation's got extra money. So what are they going to do with it? They're not going to put it in their pocket. No, they're going to reinvest it. And so that isn't what we know. That's not what happens. Well, last month, this is from The Hill. Last month, the White House released a paper arguing slashing the corporate tax rate would increase average household income. Kevin Hassett, chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, said on a call last month the main reason why cutting the corporate tax rate would boost wages is because doing so would make it less expensive for companies to invest in capital assets such as machines. So what he's saying is, now it won't cost them as much to buy new equipment and stuff like that and make them more efficient. That's what he's saying. More assets like machines let workers produce more. And when workers can produce more, business can afford to pay their workers more. Workers' pay has been decoupled from productivity since about 1980. Meaning it used to be if you produced more as a worker and you made more profits, you made more money as a worker. Not any case anymore. The more you produce, you get paid the same. There's no correlation between production and pay. None. So that guy's just making shit up. And you know how I know he's making shit up? Because here's the former budget guy from the Reagan administration, Bruce Bartlett, who I actually follow on Twitter, who's actually an honest actor for a Republican. He's sick of his own party, just like everybody's sick of their own parties this day. So here's what he says about that.
The argument that tax reform is going to raise wages is simply a lie. Kevin Hassett is a liar. He knows this is all bullshit. And here's some very good information to prove that point. In the last page of my statement, I looked at what happened after the 1986 tax reform. And you can see wages fell for 10 years.
So I like a guy who calls a guy a liar. Listen to that nice? He said that guy who said that is a liar. It's all bullshit. And here's how I know it's all bullshit. Because when we did the last tax cut in 1986, wages fell for decades straight. That's a guy from the Reagan administration saying that. So if the idea is you cut taxes for corporations and people get more money, that's not true. It's the exact opposite is what happens. And so they're lying when they say that. And here's even more proof. So here they are, the Wall Street Journal having a big economic forum. They have the economic policy guy from the White House, from Trump's White House there. And watch this question. They ask him about the effect of corporate tax cuts. They ask him about that. You're going to reinvest it, right? Well, let's see.
Can I ask you all a quick question? If the tax reform bill goes through, do you plan to increase investment, your company's investment, capital investment? Just a show of hands, the tax reform goes through? Okay.
Why aren't the other hands up?
Yeah.
Why aren't the other hands up?
John, I've got a question.
So I don't know if you caught what just happened. But he just said, hey, there's going to be a big tax cut for corporations. How many of you here are thinking of reinvesting that money into capital assets, meaning buying more machines, reinvesting in your company? And I don't know if you heard the guy from the White House said, why aren't more hands going up? Because it's bullshit. That's why. Because it's bullshit. Companies aren't not buying stuff because they don't have the cash to do it. Our economy's at record pay. Wall Street is at record numbers. Corporate profits are at record numbers. You know what's not? Workers' income. What do you call a system that takes the richest country in the world, the United States, with a booming economy and a booming Wall Street, what do you call a system that takes that country, the richest country in the world, and renders half its population poor or low income? I call that a failed system. So we're living in a failed system, and you're never going to hear anybody talk about fixing the system, except maybe Bernie Sanders, who calls himself a socialist. So what do you make of that, Richard? What do you make of those big smarty pants guys? Like, what? You're not going to invest your money back in if we give you a tax cut? They never did.
The only thing that surprises me about that, and I've seen that clip before, is that they were stupid enough to ask a question because they know the answer. They know that they're not. Look, first of all, the ideal scenario, the one that's not going to happen, given that you're absolutely right, I think it was even earlier, that wages are no longer linked to increases in productivity, the best thing that could happen, and it's bad, is that if they invested it, it would be in automation. So the right headline would be good news. Our tax cut is hastening the robot apocalypse. Yep. That would be the good news. But that's, quote unquote, but that's not even going to happen because they're not going to invest it at all because corporations have been sitting on cash for a long time. Corporations don't make anything anymore. They are all financial instruments. All CEOs now and senior executives are financial players trying to play the stock market, maximize the numbers so that quarterly earnings look better and better so that they can get bigger bonuses at the end of the year. They don't sell shit to people anymore. That's not the business that corporations are in anymore. And that's why they don't care that wages have stagnated. They don't care that all the wealth is going to them because they're not that interested in customers anymore. You know, the old days, it was going to be like, we were going to be like the Jetsons, right? George Jetson, I looked it up. George Jetson worked 2 hours a week. And had this beautiful life at Spacely Sprockets and had, could raise a whole family, one income, because that was the logical extension of where productivity and wealth was going. But instead, they were uncoupled. They're keeping all the wealth. The working class is struggling and dying, and they don't care because they don't need somebody to buy space rockets or robot maids or all the things we were, that supposedly the 21st century was supposed to have jetpacks. They don't care because now they found out you can make money just by flipping money. And so we have an entirely capitalist system based on exploitation and financialization. And, sometimes I call it the consumerless economy, that the ideal would be where there just aren't consumers at all. And if you talk to some of these economists, libertarian economists, like Tyler Cowen, who's Thomas Friedman's guru at the New York Times, these guys are basically saying, in the future, 85% of the people are going to be miserable and living in shanty towns, and 15% of the people are going to be able to sing and dance and maybe work something out with Uber or whatever, and they'll get by okay, and 1% will be great. That's just the way it's going to be. Not if I have anything to say about it.
You are 100% right. That is exactly how they see the future, and it doesn't bother them. Yeah, most of the people are going to be treading water or worse. Just go to school. That's what they would say. Get a better education.
Although that won't do anything for you either. Just be one of the lucky ones who can work with money and computers, and don't worry about the fact that the rest of the country is a dystopian hellscape.
Yep. Okay, well put. Please make sure you subscribe to this dystopian hellscape. Ring that bell so you know we're going to give you another depressing video coming up. And thanks for becoming a patron and helping support the show. We give you lots of extra content every week. And our next live show is November 20th in Hollywood and December 4th in Burbank, California. See you there.